welcome all of you to this particular meeting. Thank you. Corporate governance, as you all know, is a very critical part in organizations' life, without which a lot of things will not be apprehended. And when good care is taken on corporate governance, it will serve as an access for growth for any corporation or organization that is very serious on corporate governance. So let me start by defining what corporate governance is. Corporate governance refers to the way.
Sir, I would like to interrupt you in between. So there is a message in the chat box. They are not able to hear you, so can you please?
Corporate governance refers to the way in which companies are governed and to what purpose. It identifies who has the power and the accountability and who make decisions. Please note who has the power and for what purpose and accountability, because I believe we are going to meet them in the subsequent slides. It is very, very important to know why there is the need for corporate governance. Then identify who has the power and the accountability and who make the decision. It is in essence a toolkit and enables management and the board to deal more effectively with challenges of running the organization.
Professor, can I interrupt you? You are not audible, sir. I think you have to speak a bit louder. Yeah, you have to speak a bit louder. The attendees are sending out a message that you are not audible. So you're not on mute, but you have to go with a higher tone, I think, higher pitch.
Okay, thank you.
Higher pitch.
Yeah, so every organization has challenges of running the organization. But with good corporate governance, it makes things more effective. It makes the running of the organization more effective. We are still on introduction. So I want you to look at the symbol critically. If you look at the men in the board meeting, what do you see? I think, look at it critically and ask me a question about it. When we talk about corporate governance, board decision making must be more serious. It must be more serious. And it must gear towards the interests of stakeholders. Board decision making must be more serious. In broader perspective, corporate governance determines how stakeholders influence the organization. How stakeholders influence the organization. Shareholders have their role to play in apprehending the sources of the organization. Board have their role to play. Management have their role to play. Employees have their role to play. The organization or the corporation need to impact the society and the environment. So the system by which the organization, particular business corporations, are directed and controlled by its owners is corporate governance. And in managing the organization, or for effective corporate governance, stakeholders are not left out. management need to know what are the interests of the stakeholders? What are the interests of creditors? When it comes to corporate governance, creditors want to ensure that when their debt falls due, the organization will be in the capacity to pay. What about the government? Government receives taxes from the organization. So government have interest in the corporation. When right decisions are taken by the organization, when there is effective corporate governance in place, the mandatory payment by government is going to receive it. When there is right decision in place, owners, investment are going to be protected. And for that matter, the overall profitability of the organization. What are the interests of employees? Management need to take all these things into consideration. Employees have the interest of the security of the organization, and for that matter, the safety of their income, the salary that it is. When the organization is doing well, their salary is assured, the allowances are assured. And it is the interest of management to take all these things into consideration in running the organization. When there is no effective corporate governance in place, it will be very serious to apprehend customers. What is their interest? Their interest is the perpetuality of the organization so that they can receive their goods or whatever they demanded from the organization will be assured. What is the society? Society has interest in the organization because the company need to impact the society. Let's move to the next slide. So we want to look at, I have defined corporate governance to you. So we want to look at the corporate governance structure. Corporate governance structure. Corporate governance is defined as a structure and processes by which companies are directed. It involves a set of relationships between the company management, its board, its shareholders, and other stakeholders. So let's try to understand this diagram. We have shareholders, we have annual general meeting, we have external auditors, we have nomination committee, we have audit committee, board, nomination committee, the CEO, and the management. Shareholders are the owners of the organization. They have put their investment into the company. Annual general meeting is a place where it's held one annually, unless there is very urgent when they organize extraordinary general meeting. Annual general meeting is once a year. And it is annual general meeting that all committees are nominated, including external auditors. After the committee, all those committees are nominated, board have the responsibility to form. It is the board who formed the audit committee. And we said audit committee, we said it is a board subcommittee. We call it board subcommittee. And we have numeration committee, which also serve, you can also call it board subcommittee. We have the CEO and we have management. Each of these have responsibility to ensure that they have effective corporate governance in place. If all these functions are not performed well, or they are not playing their roles well, there will not be, the organization will not be able to practice a very effective corporate governance. So let's move to the next slide, and I will tell you the functions and the rules of each of these. So we are still on the structure of corporate governance. We have the shareholders, who are the owners of the company. Then we have election and appointment. What is simply telling us is that the shareholders elect board or appoint boards at an annual general meeting. Especially when the organization is a new organization, the board of directors are appointed. And the first auditors are also appointed by the shareholders. Then after that, the board is expected, is having the power to appoint audit committee, then compensation committee. We have something that we say that audit committee is very, very important when it comes to corporate governance, because both external auditors and the internal auditors report to the audit committee. And you may ask why. We said in corporate governance is not complete until we have effective audit in place. Corporate governance is not completed. Why? Because auditors have a role to play in apprehending the sources of corporate governance. Auditors ensure that the mandatory power of directors, they are acted upon. They are also acting well to at least protect the investment the shareholders have made into the company. And all this report doesn't go to the board because they are controlling the board. We have internal auditors in the company who are appointee and who ensures that policy procedures of the organizations works well. And so both internal auditors and external auditors cannot work and report back to the board of directors. It will impair corporate governance. So there should be audit committee in place so that both internal auditors and external auditors, after their work, they report to. This is how the audit committee is composed. The audit committee have to be appointed from the directors of the organization. We must appointed from non-executive directors, must be appointed from non-executive directors with some directors, and ensure that the report they receive are affected by the directors. Directors audit committee will ensure that whatever recommendation made by both internal auditors and external auditors are well effected to ensure there is corporate governance in place. Somebody will ask, what is a compensation committee? Compensation committee, we said we have a problem where directors sit down and they work their own numerations and salaries and allowances. When it happens so, we said the practice of corporate governance is not effective. The same directors shouldn't sit down and work their own numerations, allowances, and per diems. If organization is having that practice, we said the corporate governance is not effective. But there must be a compensation committee in place who ensures the composition of this committee, compensation committee is made up of the members. When I say the members, the shareholders and one executive director. They have to sit and ensure all entitlement belong to directors and management, and even their duty, responsibility extend beyond just compensation. They ensure other functions as well, which will be a topic for next time. But in nutshell, that is how there should be compensation for effective corporate governance. We said there must be a compensation committee. Directors shouldn't sit down, and directors and management shouldn't sit down and work their own compensations. When it happens so, there is no effective corporate governance. We are moving to the next slides. So that ends with the structure of the structure of the organization, or the structure of corporate governance. Now, let's look at significance of corporate governance. We said that when there is effective corporate governance, one significance to the organization is that it has smooth operation in place. Because with directors in charge performing all their responsibility well, ensure that every function is working. When it comes to purchases, for example, we have the procurement department. Directors ensure that every rule, responsibility, and procedure concerning procurement must be adhered to. If it happens so, there is smooth operation in the entire organization, because rules, regulations, and procedures are working effectively. So there is effective. So we said when there is good corporate governance, there is smooth operation, because who is responsible to do what ensures that that is done. Again, we are still on the significance of corporate governance. It boosts positive brand reputation. We said corporate governance builds positive brand reputation. What argument am I putting? What I mean by build a positive brand reputation is that every company wants to deal with ethical organization. So if you are practice good corporate governance, your company will be known with a particular, or will be seen with a particular eye. And all stakeholders will classify you as an ethical organization. When the organization becomes an ethical organization, it means it has built a positive brand image. The organization is having a goodwill when it comes to practicing of corporate governance. And that brand of the organization, particular organization, will be known. That means corporate governance, or a good corporate governance, build a positive brand image or brand reputation. Another significance of corporate governance, it improves cost efficiency. Directors are entrusted with decision of the organization, positive decisions of the organization. So they are to ensure that all regulations concerning or rules concerning every department is working well. Even before purchases, sometimes there should be a pre-audit in place to ensure that the invoices presented are very, very good and cost effective. When all these things are working, we said it improves cost efficiencies. Costs are efficiently managed in that organization. Before you go out or you purchase something, it must be pre-audited. Before any expenses are paid, it must be pre-audited because we have internal audit in place. Good corporate governance, or a company that practices good corporate governance, must have internal audit in place to ensure that whatever payment that made out are cost effective or has value, or that money has a value. That money has a value. When it happens so, there is cost efficiency in place. Now, when a company practice has a good brand reputation, and that company operates efficiently, and that company is seen as an ethical organization, the company look attractive to the outside world. It look attractive to prospective investors. So everybody would like to put his or her money into that company because there is a red trust. There is a red trust. Yeah, we believe when there is good corporate governance, that organization is having a perpetuality. What I mean by perpetuality is the company will live for the foreseeable future because good corporate governance sustains an organization. Then we said on strict significance, we said it ensures objectives are reached. It's what you see, with good corporate governance in place, it ensures objectives are reached. Good corporate governance is a purpose-driven, and it includes aligning procedures, policies, and practice around the company objective. From the diagrams, where we have governances, tech, people, process, policy. What I mean to say is that if you have good technology in place, you have a well-developed human resources, you have good procedures and processes in place, and good policy in place, such organization achieves its objective. There is no way you cannot achieve the objective of the organization, because with good technology in place, good human resources, good processes and procedure and policy, such organization always achieve its objective. So I'm saying corporate governance is a very good access for organization to achieve its objective. So today we have looked at what is corporate governance. We have looked at the structure of corporate governance. We have looked at the significance of corporate governance, and we are going to look at principles of a good corporate governance. Principles of a good corporate governance. Now, one of the main principles of a good corporate governance is accountability. If you look at the diagram at my right-hand side, you see, let me say, a human being in the box. As a director or a manager, you should be accountable. In your organization, are you accountable to management? Are you responsible to management? Are you answerable to management? there must be good accountability in place. Corporate governance relies on accountability, which refers to clear defined roles and responsibility within those roles. So one of the good principles of good corporate governance is it must be managers and directors must be accountable to their shareholders. So if you are a manager, what you need to know that one good corporate governance, or for you to practice a good corporate governance, you need to be accountable. Accountability is very, very important. Where there is no good accountability to management, the corporate governance is impaired. There is a serious impairment in the corporate governance that is practiced in the organization. Then another good principles of corporate governance is transparency. Transparency. How are you transparent in your dealings, in your operation? Are you transparent enough? How do you deal with the organization where you find yourself? One of the principles of good corporate governance is transparency. Things must be transparent enough to shareholders. There must be transparency in place. That is one of the principles of good corporate governance. There must be a fair dealing with the shareholders. Not only shareholders, management must be fair, must deal fair with employees of the organization. Not only shareholders, and even the stakeholders, all stakeholders. There must be fair dealing in organization. We have a case in Ghana where one of the minority shareholders he has requisitioned an extraordinary meeting against the then managing director of Cow Bank with the opinion that the dealings of the director, the then managing director, wasn't transparent enough to the shareholders. So he has organized a meeting, extraordinary meeting, and he has won the support of some of the shareholders because they said the manager can take decision without even informing the board. The managing director take decisions without informing. That was around 2000, 2008 and 2005. So they organized an extraordinary meeting to remove the managing director because he has not been transparent. If you are not transparent in your dealings, some shareholders can cause your removal. Processes that you apply in the organization, policy, and everything must be transparent to stakeholders, must be transparent to shareholders. And the organization must have a fair dealing. You must have fair dealing with the organization and its entire stake. We are moving to the next slides. Principles of good corporate governance. Responsibility. In bracket, fiduciary responsibility. Directors of the organization own the organization a responsibility. One of the responsibilities is they must act in the best interest of the organization. They have that power. They must act in the fair interest of the organization. They have the mandate in the whole in the entire organization. They must exercise powers for proper purposes. Directors must be seen to be exercising their power for the proper purpose of the organization. Things that will help the organization to achieve its aim. Things that will be the right of the shareholders. Things that must serve shareholders' purpose. Things that must share the purpose of the organization. Directors must be seen to be doing that. Directors must avoid conflict of interest or management acting on behalf of the organization must avoid conflict of interest. They own the organization that responsibility. They own the organization that responsibility. What is conflict of interest? Somebody may ask. Where a director, after his appointment as a director in the organization, has also opened another company. And when there is a project, when the company is executing a project, assume the director is a director in company A, and he opened a company B. All contract will be outsourced to company B. Sometimes even company B serves as the sole contractor, and all projects are being contracted to that company. Anything is a conflict of interest. Any decision that you, the director, will take that will benefit you in the position, you wouldn't have gotten that if not to be the position that you are appointed to, is a conflict of interest. Is a conflict of interest. And when it happens so, you end up getting things at a lower rate so as to make up more profit. Things are not contracted to those organizations at the right value. When these things are going on, we said there is no good corporate governance in place. Directors have decisions to maintain and exercise their discretion. It is one responsibility of directors. Maintain and exercise their discretion. These discretions must not be adverse, but they should take these discretions so as to be benefit for the organization. Where these things tend to be adverse to the organization, we said the corporate governance is impaired. There is not effective corporate governance in place. Directors must exercise their responsibility using care, skill, and diligence. They own that responsibility to the organization. Exercise their responsibility using care, skill, and diligence. You cannot take this decision unskillfully, will go against the organization. You cannot take a decision without undue care. It will go against the organization. You cannot take decision without diligence. It will go against the organization. But when decisions are taken in consideration with all these factors, we said there is a good corporate governance in place. There is a good corporate governance in place. Another responsibility which we cannot go without is corporate social responsibility. Corporate social responsibility. When there is a good corporate social responsibility in place, we said there is effective corporate governance. And this is one of the principles of a good corporate governance. One, the environment, the workplace where we work. It is the responsibility of directors and management to ensure that the workplace is conducive. It's part of good social responsibility. The workplace where we can work daily, where we go to work daily. It is important to ensure that the workplace is conducive. Let's go to the marketplace where we meet to transact business. If a manufacturing company, after manufacturing, where the finished products are sent, it is the responsibility of the organization to ensure that the marketplace is also conducive enough to transact business. If company A ensures that the marketplace is in order, company B ensures that the marketplace is in order, and company C also ensures that the marketplace is in order, we don't need any government to come and put the marketplace in order for us, because it is our responsibility to ensure that working place. And when all the organization that involves in the business transactions ensures that the place is good, the place will be conducive enough for transacting business. Then we come to the committee, the community. The community that we have the organization operating. The organization must have impact in the community. What impact are we having in the community? Have we made provision enough to employ a number of the committee members into the organization so that they can also gain some employment? Do we have a policy like that? The community has to benefit from us. The community where we operate, the community has to benefit from us. We need to impact the community. We need to impact the community. The community must benefit from us. There should be a policy to employ a number of the youth in the community into your organization. Besides that, there must be some development project in the community where you find yourself. All these things are corporate social responsibilities. their corporate social rules, which is a principle of a good corporate governance. When we realize their school buildings are not good enough, the organization 1 and 2, 3, operating in the community can come together to put up the school buildings for them. And it's a corporate social responsibility. The environment where we find ourselves. How do we treat the environment? If it is a manufacturing concern, the carbon that we release out, do we have anything to protect the security of the community members? The waste water, the wasted, how do we treat the wastewater? How do we treat it? Do you have a way of managing the refuse that the company produces? Do you have a way of recycling it? What do we do? The environment where we find ourselves. An organization that adhere to these procedures, we say is a good corporate organization, a good corporate governance organization. Yeah. So with this, I would like to share a case study with you. After the conclusion, I would like us to have a look at one corporate governance case, because before I leave out this thing to Anikita for the question time, I would like us to look at one case study. So in conclusion, the pillars of a successful corporate governance are accountability. We need to be accountable as managers, as directors of the organization. We need to have a fair dealings with all stakeholders. We need to be accountable towards shareholders. We need to make our financial statements transparent to shareholders. Financial statements. We need to make it transparent to shareholders. Our performance reports, we need to make them available to shareholders. Strategic documents, we need to make them available to shareholders. We don't have to hide them. We need to make them available to shareholders. So there must be accountability. We say pillars of successful corporate governance are the principles of good corporate governance, and are the things that I call pillars of a successful corporate governance. Accountability, fairness, transparency, very important. Assurance. You see, our dealings have to be to assure all stakeholders that the company is very safe, and therefore the company is having a perpetuality. What I mean by perpetuality is it will exist for the foreseeable future. Our operation should give assurance to stakeholders. Leadership. We should be seen as good leaders, because good leaders practice good corporate governance. We should be seen as good leaders, because good leaders practice good corporate governance. And we should be in position to manage stakeholders. We should be in position to manage stakeholders. You see, we should let stakeholders know that we know their interests and we know what belongs to them. Let me use creditors for example, they are stakeholders of the organization. You see, when creditors are analyzing your financial statement, they should be assured that when their credit or their debt falls due, the company is in position enough to pay them. When government is analyzing the financial statement of organization, government is a stakeholder. The government should be in position to have assurance that we are capable of payment of our mandatory payments. All the mandatory payments, the company is capable. The company is profitable enough to handle all those things. We should give our shareholders assurance that they are dividends. They should rest assured their dividend will be paid annually without any problem. When all these things are happening, we said the company is a very corporate governance organization. Or the organization is a corporate governance organization. And mind you, organizations that practice good corporate governance never fail. Because good corporate governance is the sources of organization. No organization that practice corporate governance failed. They never fail. And lastly, remember, you have to be accountable. You have to be answerable. Let shareholders know why you've taken this decision, rationale behind the decision that you've taken. That is accountability. Why you have taken this collective action. Let shareholders know. And that is good corporate governance. Thank you. Thank you. But
Thank
before
you.
then, I would like to read these case studies to your hearing and pinpoint the corporate governance issues in them to you before I hand over. Facebook. This is our Facebook. When they went public in 2012, it was the largest tech IOP offer. When they raised their interest, that is when they went to public and they raised money. They put out the IOP, initial public offer. The social media giant, they were seen as social media giants, and they raised $60 million. And with this $60 million, value the company to over $100 million. But just after a few years later, Facebook was involved in a major scandal, which involved data privacy and manipulation of users' information. In the wake of the scandal, Facebook faced intense scrutiny from regulators, lawmakers, and the public. The scandal put a spotlight on corporate governance practices. The scandal put a spotlight on corporate governance practices. Facebook has one dual-class stock structure. I'll tell you what it means by dual-class stock structure, which gives the founder and the CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, complete control over the company. Zuckerberg owns over 60% of Facebook voting share, giving him the significant power to make decisions without input from other stakeholders. This structure has gone under fire in recent years, with some investors arguing that its concentration of power is not in the best interest of shareholders. What do you see from this case? If we are to analyze corporate governance issues in this case, one, what we mean by dual stock, class stock structure is that the offer they put out in raising the share, they have two different kinds of shares. Let's assume class A and class B. And when the stock is, we have dual class like this, what happens is that Mark and friends and family jump to purchase the class A shares, which give them more edge over the other stakeholders. So if you are a prospective investor and you want to purchase, you purchase from stock B, but with the class A shares, is solely reserved for the founder and the friends and families. You see, this dual class share alone doesn't amount to corporate governance. There is no way. There should be what? Equity shares, equal shares on the market for everybody to purchase. There should not be two classes of shares. That alone. And second, and that is where the scandal comes from. Because of that decision, he's having the power, even though he's holding the major share in the company. What helps him to hold that major share is the dual class of the share. And secondly, in decision making, even though he's the majority shareholder, he's not taking any input from any organization. This also impaired the corporate governance issue in the organization. You understand? And that is why what investors are not happy about. And this brought about the scrutiny of the organization. And I believe because Facebook went through all this situation, things were rectified. And that is why we see Facebook in the position Facebook is today. So with good corporate governance, or good corporate governance serve as a glue to a successful organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. What an insightful experience. I guess we all had our share of takeaways with such beautiful insights that Professor Tatey had to offer us. And it was indeed a very splendid and a very beautiful corporate governance that we heard today. So, Professor, now we are open for the QA session. As we have questions coming in from the attendees, sir, I'd read out the questions and I hope I'll be able to answer them likewise. Okay, so sir, there is the first question from William Salomo. He has a question which says, can the, he wanted a difference between the management of the organization, standard operating procedures, and corporate governance.
You want the difference between?
Between the managements of the organization, standard operating procedure, and corporate governance. Management of the organ.
I'm not getting your question.
The question says, what is the difference between the standard operating procedure in the management of organization and the corporate governance? What is the difference between SOP and corporate governance?
What is the difference between management of the organization,
Yeah.
procedures, and corporate governance?
Yeah.
Okay. We have the directors who have been given the power of managing the organization. All policies and procedures are drafted by the directors. You understand me? So when the directors are following, you know, you go to some organization, they have procedures, policies, but nobody is adhering to them. But when these drafted procedures and policies are followed, we said there is good corporate governance in place. You know, the procedures and the policies cannot, they cannot apply. They cannot work by themselves. Let me use this word. Procedures and policies cannot, somebody have to put them into work. Somebody have to put them into place. And it is the same directors. If the directors ensure that procedures, and what you have to know is, in most cases, directors have not, they've not involved or they've not been part in day-to-day management of the organization. So they ensures that, and directors are classified as top management. We have middle management in place. So directors ensures that all these procedures and policies have to be put into work by middle management and the employees of the organizations. And when these things are being adhered to, we said there is good corporate governance in place. Thank you. I hope I've answered the question.
Okay, Professor. The second question is, who serves to protect the interest of society and employees in an organization?
And Nikita, you have to be loud for me.
Okay. Who serves to protect the interest of society and employees in the organization?
Who responsibility?
Yes. Who's
is
responsible?
the application of the social corporate governance in
Yes.
the organization?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you. You see, directors own the fiduciary responsibility in the organization, but they are not the people who run the day-to-day practice, day-to-day affairs of the organization. So they gave the order, go and do this. And management and its employees have to ensure that they obey and put it in order. So in nutshell, directors sue to it, but execution is by management and employees. Thank you.
Okay, next question comes from Lincoln. Lincoln says, who can be a shareholder of an organization and what can be the requirements?
Okay. You know, we have stock exchange, which serve as a market for shares and bonds. So stock exchange. So if you are interested in buying stock in any organization, you go to the stock exchange. And the stock exchange is there to help you to purchase, invest in whatever organization you want to invest in. So selling shares, buying shares is the responsibility, or buying and selling of shares is the responsibility of the stock exchange. But we have a brokerage firm who also acts on behalf of prospective investor. So you who have interest in investing, you are a prospective investor. When you consult a brokerage firm, they will help you to buy whatever share you want to buy from the Ghana Stock Exchange, because we have procedures to be followed, and they are trained to do that. When you see them, it becomes less than going yourself. Thank you.
Professor, next question comes from Joseph. He says, what action should be taken to CEO who fails to follow the procedure of good corporate governance in the company he is working in?
Yeah, if there's CEO, if there's company policy to sanction, it depends on the policy of the organization. But the best you can do is to remove the director. That is the remover. But if the organization is having policy to sanction, then you can sanction. But if there is nothing, that the best the organization can do is to cause the removal of that director. Thank you.
The next question comes from João Antonio. He says, what are the new challenges of corporate governance in the time of COVID-19 pandemic?
What are the new
challenges of corporate governance in the time of COVID-19 pandemic?
Oh, yeah. What is the name? It's John.
Yeah.
In that period, you know, it's a different period altogether. And organizations were having consideration for everything. So in that period, at least average application of corporate governance can do. We don't expect organization because they say we call it new normal. So we are not in normal times. So full application of corporate governance cannot be apprehended during this COVID period. An average application can be accepted. We cannot expect full application of corporate governance from organization because we are not in normal times. Thank you.
Professor, next question comes from Tobacco. He says, what are the roles of compensation committees?
Okay. The compensation committee ensures that there is fair salary for directors and management, fair per diems for directors and management, fair salaries for directors and management, and sometimes go beyond. They even ensure the recruitment of the entire organization. So they have a lot of functions. Thank you.
Okay, the next question comes from Joseph. He says, can corruption, political interference, and nepotism affect good corporate governance?
Yeah, we said when organizations practice good corporate governance, it serves as a means to prevent fraudulence and corruption. Because corruption comes where there's lack of accountability, lack of transparency. You understand me? So when an organization practices a good corporate governance, it serves as a preventive means for fraudulence and corruption. So organizations where we found a lot of corruptions and fraudulent behaviors, it means that organization is not practicing good corporate governance. Example is Aaron and Wetcon. If you know about that story, that case study, Aaron and Wetcon, what happens? Because Aaron and Wetcon wasn't practicing good corporate governance, there was a lot of fraudulence, manipulations of financial statements, and here and there. So when an organization practices good corporate governance, it prevents fraudulence and corruption. Thank you.
Next question comes from William. He says, how can one measure value addition to corporate governance by outsourced service providers? since they are not mentioned as one of the stakeholders.
Come again,
How can one measure value addition to corporate governance? Is his question.
How can one
measure value addition to corporate governance? How can it be
one
measured?
measures corporate governance?
Yeah.
How can one measure corporate governance?
Yeah.
Corporate governance can be measured from the ethical behavior of the organization. When you have seen the organization as an ethical organization, all ethical organizations are organizations that practice corporate governance. And that is one of the means you can measure corporate governance in that organization. Organization that is free from corruption is also another, we cannot say 100% or a minimal correction is also an organization that practice good corporate governance. And that is another way you can measure. We have a lot of ways of measuring. An organization with a good brand reputation is another way you can measure good corporate governance. Thank you.
Next question comes from Alfred. Alfred says, how do you set up corporate governance structure in private enterprise?
It's a very, 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 very good question and a serious question. Good and a very serious question. Because the private man is the owner, sole proprietor, is the owner of the organization, and sometimes employ his family members. So, but if if you want to discipline yourself, you can still set good corporate governance. You can form the appoint directors and allow them to work. That is the discipline from you, the owner. You need to discipline yourself. You, the owner, need to discipline yourself. You form some will appoint the directors, and even the whole year, he will not even call a meeting. If you are doing so, you cannot apply good corporate governance. You cannot apply good corporate governance. Yeah, so with discipline, if you, the owner, have a very serious discipline, you can apply it. You appoint the people and you allow them to work. You build the structures and let the structures work. And with that, you can be able to adhere to good corporate governance. Thank you, Anita.
The next question is, Professor, which says, it's from Oscar. Oscar says, what is the difference between corporate governance and corporate social responsibility?
Corporate social responsibility is a function of good corporate governance. Corporate social responsibility is a function of good corporate governance. Thank you.
The next question comes from Kwame. He says, how do you deal with conflict of interest when the affiliated company is the most competent and better placed?
Anita, come out again.
How do you deal with conflict of interest when the affiliated company is the most competent and better placed?
If the officiating company is has the board of confidence in that company.
Yeah. The question says, how do you manage conflict of interest?
How do we manage conflict of interest?
Yeah.
Yes, you have to separate yourself and work independently if you are appointed as a director, or eliminate insider informations. You have to eliminate insider information. Separate yourself. Just concentrate on your responsibility. You see, you yourself as a director, you need to understand what conflict of interest You should know that when I act this way, I'm acting to benefit myself, which goes contrary against corporate governance. You see, what I have to say is separate yourself. Even if you have an organization before you are appointed, separate yourself. Work independently. And when you do that, yes, work independently. Stand in the gap for the organization as a director. And when you do that, you can avoid conflict of interest. Thank you.
Okay, the next question says, as Professor has mentioned, the workplace must be conducive. So what does it mean for a workplace to be conducive?
Workplace to be conducive. I mean, there are some organizations, when you enter the organization, you don't feel, you don't have the entity spirit over there. Let me say it like that. You will not even see, in quotes, let me say in quotes, human beings lives and work in that entity, that environment. So when I say the environment, whatever employees needs to work in the organization, what I mean is provide them for them to feel that they are working, even if the salary is low. The working environment should be in good shape. That is what I mean. The working environment should be in good shape. Thank you.
The next question is from Martin. Martin says, what is the most effective way to evaluate the performance of directors?
What is the effective way to
evaluate the performance of directors?
The performance of
Directors.
Performance of directors. A very good question. I believe there should be a measure to appraise directors annually. There should be a measure to appraise everybody in the organization. There should be a form of appraiser. Directors need to be appraised. There should be a form of appraiser, which some organizations have. Directors should be employees should be able to be in position like what we have in academic field. Students appraise lecturers, and lecturers appraise students. We should have the same in the organization. The employee should be given opportunity to appraise directors, so that yeah, it's a very good thing. Just to give some informed decision. Employees should be allowed to appraise directors. Thank you.
The next question comes from Shivendra. He says, what are the most critical ethical issues in business today? The most critical ethical issues in business today.
The most critical and ethical issues is corporate governance. I can't leave corporate governance. The most critical, because day in and day out, a lot of organizations are failing because of practicing. We are not practicing good corporate governance. Organizations are failing because of corporate governance. So most critical issues today, even as it was yesterday, it is today, is corporate governance. Thank you.
The next question says, are there any internationally accepted or agreed standards of corporate governance?
Are there
any internationally accepted or agreed standards of corporate governance?
Yes. All the procedures that I've given you are all internationally accepted. They are all internationally. When a director is not transparent, director is not transparent. Its transparency is internationally. That is what happens in Aaron and Wedcom. They were not transparent to the general public. The financial information they were giving to the general public wasn't accurate. It wasn't transparent. They were window dressing the account. The financial statement they present to the general public, I mean the audited financial statement they've been publishing, was a window dress financial statement. It wasn't giving the good picture of their profitability. So they weren't transparent to the general public. And that is what caused the collapse of Aaron. And even the then internal auditor, Atta Edison, who was among the big five, things weren't transparent. And that is what caused the collapse of Atta Edison, which was one of the big fives in auditing. So transparency, assurance, accountability, fairness are internationally accepted. Thank you.
The next question is, what is the role of government regulators and lawmakers in ensuring good governance?
Yes, they have a strong role. They have a strong role. When even the case we looked at, the Facebook case, you will see that when things were in order initially for Facebook, regulators and lawmakers, policy came in to ensure that they have to do the right thing. They came in to ensure that they have to do the right thing. So they have a role to play. During the case of Aaron, there was a lot of financial cleanup in United States, Aaron and Wedcom. And they came out with a lot of legal procedures in the financial field to ensure that there will not be such occurrence again. So lawmakers and government have a role. They always try to ensure that organizations adhere to corporate governance.
Okay, the next question is from Kiwiski. He says, what are the gray areas of corporate governance?
What is the?
What are the gray areas of corporate governance?
The gray areas in corporate governance.
Yeah.
A very good question. The gray areas in corporate governance. So let me say assurance is one. Assurance. You see, in most of the time, the assurance that comes from organizations are less for the general public. Very, very less. We don't receive enough assurance from the organization to help us to believe that they really practice good corporate governance. Assurance. Thank you.
Okay, the next question comes, which says, explain the key performance indicators of an organization that has good corporate governance.
The key performance indicators.
Yeah, of an organization that has good corporate governance.
Of organization. I've said them on the significance. One, it must be, it must have a smooth operation. When the organization operates and is in existing for a very long time, then you have to believe they are doing the right thing. When the organization is in existence for a very long time, then you have to believe they are doing the right thing. It's one. It's one. It's one. Because it takes a lot of things for organization to live perpetually. If you look at Ford, Ford has been existing for a very long time, transferring shares to a number of people here and there. It means it's a key performance indicator that they are doing the right thing. It means every information they turn out to the public is fair. They present true and fair information to the organization. So I will use Ford as an example. It's a family-owned company, and it has existed for a very long time. I wouldn't say that they don't have challenges. That is not what I mean. But the fact that they live for a very long time, it's in existence for a long time, and the organizations have been transferred to a number of families, shareholders here and there, is an indicator that when they present financial statement to the public, it's a fair financial statement. It means there exists transparency. All these things are indicators. You hardly receive information about some adverse issues on Ford, and some. I'm not saying, I'm just using Ford as an example, and some other company. You hardly receive an adverse information about those organizations. They are all key indicators that they are doing the right thing. They are doing the right thing. Thank you.
Okay, the next question says, how was corporate governance compromised during COVID-19, and what structures were implemented to mitigate against the same?
Another COVID. Yeah. Corporate governance was seriously compromised during COVID-19. Seriously. No individual organization can check out that during the COVID period, they were doing the right thing. No, you cannot say that, because things weren't normal. Things weren't normal. So any average adherence can take us through. Any average adherence. So that is what I have for you. Thank you. So during the COVID period, you cannot say you are fully adherence. There is full adherence to good corporate governance. Thank you, because things were in normal.
Okay, the next question is, how does equity relate to corporate governance as its principle?
How
does equity relate to corporate governance as its principle?
How does equity? Yes, equity seriously relate to good corporate governance. Maybe the structure of, when you look at my definition, the directors in the group there, you know, there should be serious equity, because one, the structure of the even directorships. In one case that went against Facebook was that there wasn't equity in the directorship. No, I wasn't able to give you that, but there wasn't equity in the directorship. The directorship should be genderly balanced. Before we say there's equity, it shouldn't be only males. There should be male and female. There should be blacks and whites on the group. Then we can say there's equity. And when there is equity, there's good corporate governance. Thank you.
Okay, we are wrapping up with the QA session. The last question for today is, what if the company failed to deliver the corporate social responsibility? Is it the lack of management or the board of directors?
When they fail to provide social responsibility, is it
Yes.
a punishment or?
Yeah.
What I will say is that it's having a dual aspect. Yeah, when you fail to practice good corporate social responsibility, it's not having a punishment, but even sometimes the money you spend have is tax free. You know, it reduce the tax that you have to pay to the government. The money we spend on corporate social responsibility reduce the tax that we have to pay to government, because corporate social responsibility is tax-free. You understand me? The income that you spend on corporate social responsibility will not be taxed. So you have, I want to say, you have tax advantage when you adhere to corporate social responsibility. You have tax advantage. And two, there's sometimes the effect you have to receive is that the organization, the community will not recognize you. If you don't do corporate social responsibility, the organization, the community you exist will not give you a recognition. They don't recognize you. But when you do it, you are recognized. It means you are impacting them positively. So they give you recognition. And even not the community alone. If in the nation, you'll be recognized nationwide, that you are a company that impacts a community. It also raises your reputation. When you part a community, it raises your reputation. And when you don't do it, you are not recognized. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Professor, for the wonderful insights. And I hope almost I have tried to cover almost all the QA sessions. There were still question answers pending. So guys, we have a lot of takeaways today. Professor, there was a request in the chat box where the attendees said, would you be able to share the PPT presentation that you had shared with the attendees? So if you have got a link for sharing the same, can you please share that with us in the chat box?
What?
The PPT presentation that you had shared with the attendees. So if you can share it with the attendees, it would be great if there is a link to it, as there was a request for the same in the chat box.
Okay.
So thank you, Professor Emmanuel TT. It was a wonderful experience. Thank you, attendees and participants, for listening to us patiently. There is a short brief on Uni Athena that I would like to give up now and wrap up and conclude this session. So as we all know, we are Uni Athena, a part of Westford Education Group. And when I say this, we have been established in 2019. Athena Global Education is an edtech company headquartered in UK. Uni Athena offers online academic and free learning short courses in affordable and a flexible manner. We are a proud partner with more than 10 universities and professional qualification authority. Our partners are UCAM, Aberthe, Guillermo Marconi University, SQA, Acacia University, Arizona, Kearney American University, Cambridge International Qualifications, that's CIQ. We offer various courses through academic and professional domains. So we have academic programs, which are master's, MBA, microcredit courses, and the doctorate courses. For short courses are Learn for Free courses, where we offer basics, essentials, mastering, diploma, executive diploma, and MBA essentials. Free learning short courses in over 10 different domains, ranging from 5 hours basics to 40 hours diploma. Why do you choose Uni Athena? Yes, you choose Uni Athena because you have the option of flexible payment, 100% online learning, self-paced learning, accreditation, modular course delivery, and a personal tutor connect on every course that you enroll to. This is our bite-sized learning, which is 100% online. We have got assistance from lesson and video tutorials as you're enrolled into the course and as you progress. So for all other information that you wish to have with us, you can visit our website, connect on our social media web pages. And for admissions, there are 2 email IDs displayed on the screen, admissions@uniathena.com and fatima@uniathena.com. For all the further queries, you can connect on these 2 email IDs with us. Also, the certificate of participation for this webinar will be emailed on the registered email ID. And thank you everyone for participation once again with the progressing year 2022 and the new upcoming year. I also wish everyone a very happy and a prosperous new year. Thank you for your patience and your participation.
So, and I will send the slides so that you share.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I conclude the webinar hereby. Bye-bye and take care.